Pay close attention. The news you're about to see is fulfilling Bible prophecy.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Yisrael Hawkins. Well, we have some historic flooding that has taken place in Libya, thousands dead, tens of thousands missing and feared dead. Kim Jung actually went to Russia to meet with President Vladimir Putin to talk about some things and working on some alliances. Got the U.S. a little bit nervous there. And we're going to talk a lot about BRICS and it's moving forward in removing the petrodollar as the world's dominant currency. But first, I want you to take a look at this report on the recent flooding in Libya due to historic amounts of rain in a short period of time.
And let's now move on to another one of our big stories this week. This is what happened in Libya this week. This, of course, is where the country is located on the map, and this is what large parts of the country looks like right now. There is death and devastation. The flood in Libya has killed at least 20,000 people. Here's the story.
Last week, Storm Daniel hit the Mediterranean. Greece was affected, as was Turkey and Bulgaria. Soon, the storm made its way to Libya, a country whose infrastructure was already damaged by decades of fighting. On the 10th of September, Daniel made a landfall on Libya. The storm brought strong winds of 70 to 89 kilometers per hour and heavy rains. There were flash floods in several cities, including Al-Baida. The rain overwhelmed two aging dams, Al-Bilad and Abu Mansour. Both of these dams broke. It is believed that around 30 million cubic meters of water were released. Enough to fill 12,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This water came gushing downstream. The port city of Derna was on its path. Most of its residents were asleep at that time. Before the dams collapsed, Derna was a city of 100,000 people. Today, reports claim 25% of the city has disappeared. Derna's beaches are littered with clothes, cars, toys, and household goods. The streets are muddy, and the sea is flooded with bodies of those who once lived in Derna.
This is the first time we see a true disaster happening, especially in Libya. We are waiting for the sea to calm down to be able to see the bodies that are visible to the eye and try to retrieve them.
It's hard to say how many people really died in these floods. Derna's mayor says the death toll could reach 20,000. One thing is for sure, the flood changed the lives of the city's surviving residents forever.
Gatan, crazy amounts of rain, 16 inches in one day. That's as much as the country receives in 8 months that they've got dumped in one day.
And even if the dams were in great operation, I don't know that they would have really been able to hold back that tremendous amount of water in a short period of time.
Right. Well, the U.S. dollar is in trouble as the BRICS alliance is making moves to strengthen a new currency in order to level the financial playing field in regard to currency and economies. Now, a common currency seems to be the target that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, quote, serious self-respecting countries are well aware of what is at stake and want to create their own mechanism to ensure sustainable development. It is this direction that the initiatives that have been voiced recently about the need to think about creating our own currencies within the framework of BRICS.
Now, the Russian president backs the idea along with many others. Putin said, quote, The matter of creating the international reserve currency based on the basket of our countries is under review. Well, Russia not being able to use the U.S. dollar freely and with its own currency under strain is all for the new global currency. Well, Alexander Barbakov is the deputy chairman for Russia's State Duma, the lower parliament. He said the transition to settlements in national currencies is the first step. The next one is to provide the circulation of digital or any other form of fundamentally new currency in the nearest future.
Well, India also has a trade agreement with Russia called the rupee-ruble trade mechanism, which has led to a boost in bilateral trade. Now, in 2022, India's trade with Russia equaled $30 billion and believed to be an all-time high, fueled also by oil purchases. Now, Russia is also banking on India's support, saying, quote, Russia will continue to build up a particularly privileged strategic partnership with the Republic of India with a view to enhance and expand cooperation in all areas on a mutually beneficial basis.
Well, the plan for a BRICS currency cannot come about without the help of India and China, and Russia needs both of their support. Well, there will be many challenges, as has been said in times past, between the countries' integration of currencies, trades, and so forth. But although there might be many challenges ahead, one thing is for certain. They all want to move away from the U.S. petrodollar, and they're all in unity to do so.
Right, those countries, and that is pretty strong, they do not want to be ruled by the West.
That's right.
Well, take a look at this next video showing North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un and Russian leader Vladimir Putin in a recent meeting in Russia of solidarity and how the U.S. has changed its tone before and after the meeting. Take a look.
Standing on Russian soil, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un shook hands with Vladimir Putin, while back home, his country launched ballistic missiles in Japan's direction. Before Vladimir Putin met Kim Jong-un, this is what the US State Department said about the Russian president, all with a smirk on his face.
I would characterize it as him begging for assistance.
But the sheer optics of Kim Jong-un's visit to Russia sent very clear signals. And just 2 days later, the State Department spoke a completely different language, looking rather troubled.
I would say it is troubling when you see the Russians talking about cooperating with North Korea. We have reason to believe they were going to discuss military transfers. That is quite troubling, and we would watch very closely and be concerned.
From smirking, they're suddenly troubled and concerned now. But what is troubling the US? Will North Korea aid Russia in Ukraine? Will Russia take stance with the hermit nation against the US in the Korean Peninsula? What's the Russia-North Korea game plan?
Well, yeah, you see at the beginning of that, the U.S. kind of was, a little bit smirky, like, yeah, we don't see anything really coming about. After the meeting, well, they're really not comfortable about Russia and North Korea working together, especially joining military forces. Well, at the 15th annual summit for BRICS, a big announcement was made to admit 6 new countries to the economic bloc of non-Western nations. Those countries are Egypt, Ethiopia, Argentina, United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Topics of discussion during the summit were de-dollarization, hegemony, and the idea of a multipolar world.
Well, Chinese President Xi Jinping made a statement concerning the direction the U.S. has taken over recent years, saying, quote, some country, of course hinting at the U.S., obsessed with maintaining its hegemony, has gone out of its way to cripple the EMDCs, which are the emerging markets and developing countries. He continued, whoever is developing fast becomes its target of containment. Whoever is catching up becomes its target of obstruction. But that is futile, he said. As I have said more than once, blowing out one's lamp will not bring light to oneself, unquote.
Interesting. Well, the major priority of the BRICS country is to foster a multipolar world where it is lessening the hold the U.S. has on the world's economy. In an interview with Max Blumenthal, editor-in-chief of the Gray Zone, Rising asked him to explain what is at stake for all parties involved. Quote, the BRICS aims to foster trade through a new development bank, or as it's called, and this could potentially, he said, up in the hegemony, the domination of the dollar, end quote.
Well, he continued to explain that states like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, which provided the basis for the petrodollar to begin with, that this will greatly break the dominance of the petrodollar if they start trading in their own currencies. For example, Saudi Arabia has discussed selling oil to China in exchange for its local currency, the renminbi. And of course, the yuan is the unit in that currency there for China.
Interesting. So this expansion of BRICS can, of course, bring with it a lot of political complications, as they say, as countries change the way they are buying and selling products and services. Well, we have talked about BRICS numerous times before, but our next video gives a nice recap of who they are and what kind of influence they have in the world currently. Take a look.
So right now, behind the scenes, there is a battle for the concept of money.
The group of emerging economies known as BRICS makes up more than 40% of the world's population and a quarter of the global economy, which aims to challenge a world order seen to be dominated by the U.S. and its Western allies.
A new money is being created, a new world reserve currency that's meant to challenge the current world order. Now, this is a result of something called the BRICS Alliance, which is a team of 5 countries. And let me just give you some statistics of just how powerful they're now becoming. By the end of 2023, they're estimated to control 25% of all the exported goods, which is about 29% of the world's GDP. Remember, that's the thing that measures how much stuff the world will make in a single year. They will also produce 43% of the world's oil, and they'll represent 46% of the world's population. And all of that is gonna happen at the end of this year. And here's exactly what that means. The BRICS countries have overtaken the G7 countries already by something called purchasing power parity, which looks at living standards. It's measured that they'll also have about 50% of all the working people in the world, which altogether sit on about a quarter of the Earth's land area. And they're getting much, much bigger.
This year's chair, South Africa, says over 40 countries have expressed interest in joining. Oil heavyweight Saudi Arabia has the backing of Russia and Brazil. And Argentina says it has China's support.
Over 40 countries have already applied to join the BRICS, and starting next year in 2024, they're going to welcome 6 new countries to their list, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates. So now the oil giants are joining BRICS, and their new money is rumored to be going back to the gold standard. And all of this is meant to challenge US, Western dominance, and start the de-dollarization of the world. And that's already starting to happen, because the central bank's share of dollar reserves is at a 20-year low of 58%. Even the head of marketing research at JP Morgan just recently said the importance of the dollar has declined significantly from 2014 to 2022, which leaves us with a lot of questions like, who are these countries? Why are they challenging the dollar? And what's wrong with the dollar to begin with? And if they're successful, will that lead to Ray Dalio's prediction coming true, that all world reserve currencies will inevitably come to an end?
So as you can see there, the BRICS nations, Katan, they're getting very strong. A lot of the trading and the goods produced by those countries, I mean, they have a very strong foothold now, and especially if they start getting other countries to join in. And Ray Dalio's prediction is basically saying that the U.S. is facing way too much debt, and they're going to be going into recession if they don't do something about it. So, you know, these countries pulling away from the dollar, definitely not going to help that situation.
That's right.
Well, so what will the new BRICS currency look like, and what will occur to the dollar? Well, our final video takes a look at how, for many years, the U.S. dollar was the only currency used for buying and selling oil, among other things. But now it looks like the petrodollar, as it came to be known, will be replaced among the BRICS nations, including multi-oil-rich countries like Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Please pay close attention to this video.
BRICS just announced a new global currency designed to replace the dollar. The deputy chairman of Russia's State Duma, Alexander Babakov, told reporters that the BRICS alliance, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is creating a new currency that will be backed by gold, rare earth metals, and other critical commodities. BRICS will likely take up the task of creating this new currency at the next BRICS summit in late August. While there's still a lot of things we don't know about the currency, the announcement alone is a huge development. Since 1945, the US dollar has been the world reserve currency, meaning it acts as the standard currency for all international payments. This means that if Japan wants to trade with Thailand, they wouldn't pay each other using yen or baht, they would use the US dollar. The dollar's monopoly is especially strong in the oil trade, which until recently was exclusively conducted in dollars. What this means is that every country in the world needs a constant supply of dollars on hand to buy oil and other critical goods, and to acquire those dollars, they have to manufacture real goods and sell them to the US or some other country that acquired dollars from the US. The United States, on the other hand, can print dollars, meaning they can essentially go into debt for free. Economist Barry Eichengreen describes it as the following. It costs only a few cents for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing to produce a $100 bill, but other countries have to pony up $100 of actual goods and services in order to obtain one. The other thing is that since the world financial system was set up by the US and relies so heavily on the dollar, the US also has the power to exclude countries from the international financial system. The US controls SWIFT, the international payment system, which basically functions as the blood vessels of the world financial system. The US has weaponized SWIFT by banning countries it doesn't like from it, like Cuba, Iran, and North Korea. The US also takes advantage of the fact that many countries store their foreign reserves in US banks and dollar-denominated assets. The most brazen example of this was after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, when the US froze over $600 billion of gold and foreign reserves held in US and EU banks, making Russia unable to pay its foreign debts. So how would a new BRICS currency change this? Well, the US has the power to print money and unilaterally exclude and punish countries because the world relies on the dollar. But if enough countries make the collective decision to abandon the dollar and rally around new currencies that the US doesn't control, the US wouldn't have the power to manipulate the world financial system like it does now. Skeptics often say that no currency will replace the dollar because not enough countries will adopt it. But the 5 BRICS countries alone represent a whopping 40% of the world's population. If you add the countries that are applying for BRICS membership, it becomes a little under half. If all these countries started demanding BRICS currency in trade instead of the dollar, the rest of the world would likely have to lessen their foreign reserve holdings of US dollars and increase their holdings of the new BRICS currency. Other countries will also probably find the BRICS currency more appealing because it's not controlled by a single country, unlike the dollar. For centuries, the imperialist countries used their military and financial supremacy to siphon off resources and labor out of the rest of the world. Now those countries are banding together and starting their own currency, backed by that same wealth of resources, which will dramatically reduce the value and relevance of Western fiat currencies. While some are going to continue to insist that de-dollarization will never happen, many would argue that it's the current hegemonic position of the dollar that won't last, and that a new financial system that reflects the new multipolar world was always bound to emerge.
Wow, definitely. You know, we haven't had much talk, although we know it's still taking place with Russia and Ukraine and many other conflicts, the United States and China, war continually being on the horizon. But now this big move in another type of war, a war with economy, a war with the economy, as many of these nations are moving away, as we've mentioned in this article and many before, from the U.S.'s hegemony with the petrodollar.
Yeah, interestingly, in one of the videos, Katana shows how these other countries, if they wanted $100, you know, or the petrodollars, they had to have $100 worth of something, whatever it was. But the U.S. could just print some more. That's right. So, of course, that is, the U.S. is in so much debt, and now these other countries, if they stop using or dealing in the petrodollar, that is just going to be devastating, of course, for the American economy, and that could launch us into a war because U.S. said we're not going to let this take place. Yeah. They want that world order to stay in their favor, so to speak.
That's right. That's right. Well, if you'd like to learn more about what's taking place in the world right now and the prophecies concerning what will take place in the future, contact the House of Yahweh. And when you contact the House of Yahweh, don't forget to request your free copies of the Prophetic Word magazine and the monthly newsletter. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them at any of their websites by going to yahweh.com, yisraelhawkins.com, or yahwehsbranch.com. You can also visit our website by going to ypnnews.com. If you would like to email the House of Yahweh, you can do so by emailing info@yahweh.com. For any international calls, please call the number that's on your screen now. And once again, don't forget to go to the Yisrael Says program and look at that. It's absolutely free, YisraelSays.com, and check out the Ask Yisrael program by going to AskYisrael.com.
Well, don't go anywhere, because up next is another classic sermon from Yisrael Hawkins. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Katan Alexander.
And I'm Jeffrey Hammerman.
Thank you for watching.